Welcome to the world of Game of Thrones, the rough and unpredictable land of Westeros, where honor meets betrayal and gaining power often comes at a deadly cost. At the center of this epic story is a question: how does this fantasy world feel so real? The answer, in part, comes from history. From medieval power struggles to ancient fortifications, George R. R. Martin drew inspiration from some of the most dramatic events and figures in history to create his masterpiece. Today, we'll uncover the fascinating historical inspirations behind Game of Thrones, connecting real world conflicts to the battles for the Iron Throne. Let's begin with perhaps the most well known influence: the War of the Roses. Imagine England in the 15th century. Two rival families, the Lancasters and the Yorks, fight for control of the English crown. This civil war lasts for decades and is filled with changing alliances, betrayal, and bloody battles. Sound familiar? This chaotic time inspired the warring Starks and Lannisters. The Lancasters, with their red rose symbol, are similar to the Lannisters, while the Yorks, with their white rose, resemble the Starks. Even individual characters reflect history. Eddard Stark, for example, reminds us of Richard, Duke of York, a man loyal to his country but trapped by political schemes. And Cersei Lannister? Her clever ambition is similar to Margaret of Anjou, the shrewd queen who supported the Lancasters. But the similarities go beyond individual characters. The War of the Roses was a conflict without clear heroes or villains, just like the morally complex world of Westeros. George R. R. Martin once said he was inspired by how unpredictable history can be, where noble figures can fall and traitors can sometimes win. This perspective challenges us to think about loyalty, morality, and the real cost of power. Now, let's head north. Picture yourself on the windy moors of Britain, looking at the remains of Hadrian's Wall. Built by the Romans in the 2nd century AD, this stone barrier stretched across northern England, marking the edge of the known world. Beyond it lay wild lands that the Romans feared and distrusted. Sound familiar? This turbulent period inspired the warring Starks and Lannisters. The Lancasters, with their red rose symbol, closely resemble the Lannisters, while the Yorks, with their white rose, are similar to the Starks. Hadrian's Wall inspired the wall in Game of Thrones, the icy barrier that protects the Seven Kingdoms from the unknown dangers beyond. In the show, it represents the ultimate frontier, separating civilization from the chaos of the wildlings and the looming threat of the White Walkers. Martin's Wall takes it a step further by mixing history with mythology. While Hadrian's Wall didn't keep supernatural creatures away, it served a similar purpose: creating a divide between us and them, between order and the unknown. The men stationed there, like the Night's Watch, were often outcasts from society, sent into exile at the edge of the world. The parallels remind us how history often builds legends out of borders and what lies beyond them. But the inspirations for Game of Thrones reach far beyond England. Let's journey east to examine another influence: the Mongols. The relentless Dothraki, with their fearsome reputation, honor-based culture, and mastery of horseback warfare, owe much to the Mongol Empire. Like the Dothraki, the Mongols were nomadic warriors who were unstoppable in their prime. They swept across Asia and Europe, just as the Dothraki charge across the plains, following their call. Both share a worldview centered on mobility, strength, and dominance, showing how entire cultures can develop from living on the move. Then there's the Byzantine Empire, a complex, prosperous realm playing a political chess game for centuries. Much like the machinations in King's Landing, Constantinople was once a hub of backstabbing court intrigue. Byzantine rulers dealt with a lot of internal conflict, where people often chose personal gain over loyalty. The Iron Throne, a symbol of power and struggle, reminds us of the Byzantine throne, which was also a grand but dangerous seat of power. Both realms, Westeros and Byzantium, thrive on shadowy alliances and the constant struggle between ambition and survival. Finally, we can't forget the larger picture of medieval Europe, with its broken kingdoms, religious battles, and the rise and fall of powerful families. From the passionate fervor of the High Sparrow, reflecting real-life religious purges, to Daenerys Targaryen, who echoes warrior queens like Eleanor of Aquitaine and Joan of Arc. Eleanor was a strong 12th century figure known for her political skill, while Joan inspired her people during the Hundred Years' War. Both women, like Daenerys, challenged norms and fought fiercely for their causes. Game of Thrones is filled with medieval inspiration. The show portrays the chaos and complexity of that time, where power could vanish with a single knife or grow through a clever marriage. So, why does all of this matter? Because Game of Thrones, while a fantasy, feels grounded in reality. By drawing from history, George R. Martin created a brutal, believable world that resonates with us. The betrayals and triumphs in Westeros reflect the unpredictability of real human history, reminding us that, as the saying goes, truth is often stranger than fiction. This is why Game of Thrones endures. It's not just the dragons or the magic that captivate us, it's the depth of its history, rooted in the real world we live in. Whether it's the bloody rivalry of the War of the Roses or the windswept isolation of Hadrian's Wall, history adds depth to fantasy, making it even more thrilling and haunting. So the next time you rewatch Game of Thrones, look closer. Behind the political schemes, the battles, and even the dragons, you'll see the echoes of our own past. Because as George R. R. Martin shows us, history never really dies. It lives on, reshaped and reimagined in the stories we tell. Thank you for joining us as we explored the threads of history woven into this iconic series. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the worlds where history and fiction collide. See you next time.